Welcome to Power Up Your Practice, the go-to podcast for law firm owners and managing attorneys working on the business, not in it. I'm Ruby Powers, your guide into the heart of law practice management, bringing you insights from leading legal minds, trailblazing attorneys, and expert guests who provide you with an actionable perspective on running your firm more effectively and efficiently. Prepare to open your mind, be inspired, and power up your practice to the next level. Hi everyone, I'm your host Ruby Powers, your companion through the ever-evolving landscape of law practice management. And today we have an exciting guest. We have Peter Vogel. He has a lot of really cool titles, but he's a blogger and lawyer with Vogel IT Law. He's a trial lawyer, board director. I'm really interested in learning a lot about his career and his journey. I've heard about him before, and I got the opportunity to meet him at the State Bar of Texas annual meeting in Dallas in June, I believe it was, not too long ago. And I'm really honored to have him here with us today. Peter, thanks for joining us.
Well, Ruby, thanks for inviting me, and I look forward to having a dialogue with you about law practice management, since I've spent my career doing that.
Well, why don't you fill us in a little bit more about your bio, or tell us, like you said that your path was not very traditional.
Well,
tell us
yeah, it wasn't very traditional. Yeah, it wasn't very traditional. When I was an undergraduate getting my bachelor's degree at the University of Texas a long time ago during Vietnam, everybody in the business school had to take statistics. And the first half of statistics was Fortran programming, and I just fell in love with it and thought it was the greatest thing in the world. So I got a job as a computer programmer when I graduated, working here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And I was working on IBM 360s, and the building I was in was on Highway 360. So I thought there was something wonderful about that, but I wasn't quite sure. And then I spent some time in the Army, and I was stationed near Washington, D.C., so I decided I'd like to live in Washington, and I got into Georgetown Law School and American Graduate School. And I thought, well, one is 3 years and the other is a year and a half. I'll just do the year and a half. So I got a job working as a computer programmer at the National Institutes of Health in Bethesda and got my master's in computer science at night. And then I thought I wanted to have a PhD, went back to Austin to work on my PhD, and I absolutely hated it because none of my professors had ever worked. They were all the pure academics. So I did enough hours. I think I was 6 years from ABD, but I bailed out anyway. And I went to law school, but I never intended to be a lawyer. My plan was I was going to do computer consulting. So I taught graduate and undergraduate computer courses all through law school. And as a matter of fact, my last semester in law school, I was taking 16 hours, and I had 3 classes with about 90 students. So I consider myself more an adjunct than I was a law student. And then I moved back to Dallas, which is my hometown, and I did computer consulting. I did that for about 2 years. And then I had clients ask me to represent them, so I just hung up a shingle, and I was a sole practitioner. And I did that for a number of years. And then I went to Gardier Winsewell, a pretty large regional firm that most people will recognize, Texas lawyers will. I went there because in 94, 30 years ago, I was president of the Dallas Bar, and all my friends that had been solos at the Dallas Bar, their practices suffered badly. So my year as president 30 years ago, 1994, I averaged 150 hours a month on bar stuff, and I wasn't planning on having a lawsuit against Joe Jamail and having 92 depositions that year. So it was one totally insane year. And then Gardier at some point merged with Foley and Lardner, that I think a lot of people would know, in 2018. And about 2 years ago, I decided I've had enough of big law, went back to being a solo. And all these years, I've limited my practice totally to representing buyers and sellers of information technology and internet services. And that includes cybersecurity, intellectual property. Half my practice is trial. I've had cases in 38 states. And the other half is transactional. So if you were going to go register your automobile on texas.gov, the state port business e-commerce portal, I negotiated that deal for the state of Texas in 2009 and 2018, and the state makes $30 million a year on that website. So that's kind of what I do day to day. I
Wow.
negotiate cloud agreements. I do cybersecurity intrusions. And I'm active. The other thing that is a little different, I think, than most other lawyers, um, because I had the master's of computer science, I'm active in a group called Society for Information Management. And the Dallas Fort Worth chapter is the third largest chapter in the country. And I'm the only lawyer that belongs. And 2 years ago, I was recognized as one of 16 fellows for my contributions. And then last year, I became the general counsel for a cybersecurity training organization called North Texas Information System Security Association. So I hang out with chief information officers and chief information security officers. And in addition to that, I give 30 or 40 speeches a year. And so about more than half of them are to CIOs, CISOs, CPAs, and CFOs. And then maybe about a third are to CPAs. I mean to lawyers. So
Wow.
that's kind of
So
my
that
background. It's a
is,
little unusual.
no, that's not, that's very unique. And so I have lots of things I'm curious about, but like, what are some of the other like ideal, maybe or general like clients or cases that you are looking for that you work on, if you're allowed to say?
Well, right this minute, I have two trade secret cases going on in federal court in the Southern District of Houston. I've got failed software implementation projects going on in the Western District of Texas, also in Collin County. So, and I've had computer fraud and abuse case in Pittsburgh for a while. I mean, and I've done a lot of intellectual property in addition to everything else. Trade secret misappropriation, copyright infringement, patent infringement. I've done that. And then part of what I do is my undergraduate degree was in marketing and accounting. So I do a lot to help my clients with marketing and setting up websites, and from not just the legal side, but also from the marketing perspective.
So when we were preparing, you mentioned you talked a lot about like rainmaking, and when I was preparing for my latest book, I was really fascinated about. There's this article about like herding cats, and there's an aspect about rainmaking in it, and like what, and I just sort of went down like a little rabbit hole of rainmaking research, but it takes a lot of characteristics that aren't in every. It's not a majority of the attorney population, from what I understand. And there's some things you can be learned, and some things are sort of feel more comfortable with a personality. But why don't you tell me what you've learned and what your take on rainmaking?
One of the things, I guess I've always had this philosophy, and I think that's part of why I get a year, is that I think, and I don't care how many people are there in the audience, because it only takes one person to be the right person to to engage you. But I think part of it is that I would say most law firms, only about 10% of the lawyers are the rainmakers. I mean, it certainly was true when I was at Gardier, and also that there has to be. I used a marketing coach for 20 years to help me with my practice and take advantage of marketing and communicating. Um, Another thing that just is a little different, and that is I have for a number of years been very active in using LinkedIn. So I help people with their LinkedIn profiles. I call it LinkedIn 101, and I help them improve their marketing, but it's a way to network with other people and learn more about uh, what's going on. People post things on LinkedIn every day, all the time, kind of 24/7. So the LinkedIn is a platform. Like, think about this for a second. Microsoft paid $25 billion to buy the LinkedIn profile. I mean, so the company, and what they're using it for is for employers to find employees. So, part of the trick on all of it is, what is the benefit of it? So let me tell you a short story. Maybe you'll like this one. In 2009, my son, who does construction law, invited me to give a speech to the construction law section of the San Antonio. So I went down there with my PowerPoint slides and talked about, among other things, LinkedIn. And I got to the LinkedIn profile, and showed everybody what it looked like. And I had 392 connections then. So I'm up to about 7,000 now. So it's not quite the same world. But then I went to the search engine and I said, how many people are in the construction industry, the title of president? And it was 52,000 people. So then I made it within 100 miles of San Antonio. And I said, and that was like 594 people. And one of those people was a guy who was a lawyer at Zachary. And HV Zachary is one of the largest construction companies in San Antonio. So I did a search of construction industry, title of president within 100 miles of San Antonio at HV Zachary. And I came up with about 500 people. And actually, one of the people on the front page there named Brian Hamilton and I had 2 connections. So I brought up his page so everybody could look at it. And someone stops me and said, he's sitting on the front row. How did you do that? And that's my whole point is it's a very small world and we'd have a lot of connections. And so I take advantage of that.
Yeah. I used to like think LinkedIn was more for people like recruiters and people looking for work. Because, having had my own job at my own law firm for 15 years, I didn't like see the benefit at the moment, but then I realized like the last few years, I've just seen like there's so much going on LinkedIn. And I know that like a certain clientele, there are more there than others. And so like for my employment-based, investment-based clients and immigration, that's where, and referral sources. So I don't think I gave as much credit to LinkedIn until maybe the last few years. And then now I'm like, oh, I wish I had really invested more in it. I actually just paid for premium like this last weekend because I kept sending people like notes and then I'd get capped at like 5 a month or something. And I didn't want to be rude and not send a note. And then I'm like, well, they're a CEO. I don't want to see.
It isn't very expensive to get that premium given the opportunity. But like I say, I think it's really important. And I'll just give you another example. I did a LinkedIn 101 for the Dallas Bar Association Board of Directors a couple of years ago. And I'm going to look it up because I don't want to say it wrong. But one of the individuals was the president of the bar during COVID, named Aaron Tobin. And so I went through and helped them figure out what to do about their LinkedIn images and how they could improve it. So after the LinkedIn 101 I did with him, before that, he had a picture, the blue and green junk that comes with LinkedIn. That means you're not involved in playing the game. And he said he was a member of Condon, Tobin, Sladen, Thornton, and Nuremberg. Okay, that's what he said. So after LinkedIn 101, he put a courtroom behind him instead of the blue and green junk. And this is what he says about himself now. High stakes business trial lawyer, leading businesses, entrepreneurs, and executives through their most critical disputes and workout situations. That's a lot better than just being a member of a law firm.
Yeah.
So that's what I do is I help people figure out what they want to say about themselves.
That's reminding me, I need to update my LinkedIn banner. I was just remembering because it's based off the conference I went to last week. I was like, note to assistants, make new one. No, but then also when I was thinking about it, it's almost like Facebook for professionals, and it's fun. Like there's the chats and then there's the likes, and then like now there's like, idea and like love. And it's like, so I feel like it's almost replacing Facebook in some respects.
No, I think it's got a different purpose. And the reason I say that is there are many of my professional friends that write and post things all the time. Law professors in different schools, when they meet an old friend or have a student that they want to highlight or something. I mean, it's a nice platform for doing that. And then having the opportunity to pat them on the back when appropriate, And part of it is, I think it goes along with my marketing philosophy, which I call the pool ball theory. And that is the probability a ball will go in the hole is 0 if the balls are not moving around. So I always have something going one direction or another. And I think that that's important because that's the way things. I'll give you an example. About 4 years ago, I was tired of having breakfast, lunch, and coffee with the same people all the time. So I
Uh-huh.
went to LinkedIn in the search engine to look to see how many people did I know in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex that had the title of general counsel. And I know it's going to sound crazy when I say this, but it was like 850 people. And I went through that list and identified 27 people that I wanted to reach out to. As a result of reaching out to one of those 27, I then did all the intellectual property for the largest mortgage company in the country.
Wow.
So there are
Yeah.
people. So like on September 1st, it was the beginning of my 3rd year as a solo practitioner. And I posted something on September 3rd because that was the first business day after September 1st because it was a Labor Day weekend. And I waited until after 11 o'clock in the morning on the 3rd, and I posted a notice about starting my 3rd year. And now in the past, what is that, 2 weeks, I've had about 3,000 people view my profile. I've had over 150 likes and about 60 comments. But what I can do is that I can look and see who those people are. And if they're people I haven't talked to in a long time, I can reach out to them, send them an email or call them and just say, we haven't talked in a long time.
Yeah, that's great. And that's I love also when you can see when you're connected to someone else and then you're like, well, how come I don't know this person already if we already have like 100 people in common or something like that? Or just, I love the way, like, some people are a lot more engaging. I'm trying to up my game in that respect, like asking questions or making interesting comments along. I think it's better to do that than just a lot of so honored to do this and so honored to do that, because it gets a little old after a while. You want to have more of like a engagement in that
Right.
respect.
Well, I think it's that you congratulate people when they get new
Yeah.
jobs, they get a recognition of one sort or another. And I'll just give you an interesting example. Somewhere along the line, and I blog twice a week, and I've done that since 2008. So I'm not sure if that's good or bad either. And my blog is Internet, Information Technology, and E-Discovery. That's the. In any event, a couple of years ago, a law student at Florida State Law School read one of my blogs and reached out to me he wanted to talk to me about my blog. Well, I ended up doing LinkedIn 101, 201, 301, and I helped him get a summer job doing intellectual property law at a large regional law firm. And then he introduced me to another friend from Florida, where he's from, who interesting person who from Cuba and went to law school, but he didn't want to pay a student loan. So he took a job with the state of Illinois for 10 years and to pay off a student loan. And so when the 10 years ran out, I helped him get a job. And now he's a chief privacy officer in one of the largest corporations in the country. So
Oh,
I'm
wow.
real proud of helping him with that, with his career change.
Oh, that's awesome. That actually, all of this is reminding me, I'm teaching my law class on law practice management tonight, and I told the students at the beginning of the semester they needed to make sure they had their LinkedIn profile, filled out and complete. But I think I'm going to bring it up again tonight and make sure that they're working on it, because just like all the connections that happen from reaching out, and you never know what can come of it. And that's great to feel like you're a part of their journey as well, and helping someone else make a connection or get a job opportunity or get a client.
Well, I taught law office management at SMU for 5 years, so that
Oh,
was something. And I enjoy running into I was the adjunct at SMU for 30 years, and so it's really, I think that's a great thing. But let me show you my law practice management, my favorite thing I did in every single class. See if you can see this. Can you see that? Have an XY.
uh-huh. It's a little, you might have to move it around a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, there. Okay.
Okay. I see a
Okay.
triangle.
The Y, okay, is client satisfaction. Okay. How
Okay.
happy is the client with the lawyer. And this is time across here. And that is,
Okay.
if you win a trial, the client loves you 100%. If you don't send an invoice for 90 days, they could have done it without you. So this curve is this straight line is client satisfaction.
Well, that's sort of like what I tell my staff. Like when we get something approved, they get their green card, their work authorization, and we win. Like ask them for a review right then, like while they can remember that they love us.
Well, speaking of which, I'll tell you something. I just had an interesting conversation about billing. I hang out with IT people, like I said, and we had a breakfast roundtable. And the person who was there was the chief information officer for a large international law firm. And he came to talk about how frustrating it was to try and get lawyers to cooperate and use software in one thing or another. But one of the points that I made in that discussion, which I think is important, is how many lawyers do a poor job of entering their time records and doing it timely. Personally, I'd put my time records in first thing I do every morning. I do everything from the day before. But how many lawyers don't wait until the next month and then they don't get all the time in? They lose all this time. It's really not good.
Yeah, you need to do it in real time if you do that. You Let's go back to the blog, because you were talking about the you blog twice a week, and you've been doing that for what, 15, 16, a long time?
Well, since 2008. So what is that? 16 years? Yeah, I guess.
And so you post them on your LinkedIn.
Well,
and then,
okay, let me tell you what I do. Here's what I
okay.
do. I post my blog on my website.
Okay.
Right. And then for the first X number of years, I don't remember exactly when, I think until Foley came along, I used LexBlog, which is, I think it's the biggest lawyer blog host in the country. They've got about 5,000 blogs they host. Matter of fact, the guy who runs it, named Kevin O'Keefe, is a former plaintiff's lawyer. And the name of his blog that he's been doing forever is called Real Lawyers Have Blogs. So what I do is I post it on my website. I then also post it on LexBlog, and then I post it on LinkedIn. So it goes all the way, or I do it in both places, and I have a link to each one of them and a screenshot of whatever I have, because I usually quote an article. Like this morning, I did a blog from Chief Information Officer Magazine. And so I took a screenshot of that. It was about a new AI technology from Salesforce.
Oh, yeah. A friend of mine who's been on the podcast before was at Dreamforce last week. He was excited about some of the new updates with Salesforce. I'll have to take a look at that. So you post on your own website, and then it's
the same blog. Yeah, I do the same blog on my website. I also do it at LinkedIn. I mean at LexBlog, and then I also put it on LinkedIn. So I posted 3 places, same blog.
And that's the other thing I was noticing, is that there's a lot of people putting newsletters or like more content on LinkedIn, and it's a good way to like attract, create more of a dialogue, attract attention, and be like a content creator.
Yeah. So let me tell you, one of the things is, over the weekend, I was traveling. I think it was Friday. I did a blog about artificial intelligence, and one of my longtime friends, a chief information officer who today is the chief operating officer of a national retail chain of commercial products. When I did that, he said in his congratulation note to me how much he enjoyed it. He shared it with his new general counsel, so his general counsel could see that I had written this thing on AI.
Oh, wow. That's great. And I think that's awesome if you have it lots of different, you have different ways for that information to get out. I have a newsletter for Power Strategy Group, and we've been debating on whether to go base it off of LinkedIn, just go with LinkedIn, or keep the newsletter format, or LinkedIn and the newsletter, or Substack seems to be popular too. There's sort of like we're trying to finalize this pretty soon, like which one to go with. So
Well, I do both blog and LinkedIn. And then the other thing I do, I know this is going to sound really nuts, is
okay.
I pick a title for my blogs with an expectation that I will use that title in one of my speeches, because I have a very unusual approach to PowerPoint. I just did a program for the in-house counsel, uh, state bar in-house counsel program, and went through, I think, 152 PowerPoint slides in 30 minutes. And so what I do is I include blogs that I do when it's a timely issue dealing with something like AI or cloud computing, or, something like that, CrowdStrike, whatever it may be. But I use that as part of the way I point out. So if I'm going through 152 PowerPoint slides in 30 minutes, you can imagine that not one is on the screen very long.
Mm. Wait, so each blog is just is a slide so that you can go
No, no,
through.
I don't use them all. I'm saying if I want that, I always put together the title based on what I think I might be able to use when I give a speech.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm all about like recycling content and finding ways for multi-purpose of it. And if I create a new speech, I want to take it out for a spin for at least 3 or 4 times before I retire it. But yeah, that's really smart. And I think that's what you have to be when you're in this like rainmaking content creator space, is you've got to find ways to make it easy for yourself. Like it already takes energy to create content, to put that thought in, to find ways to get it out in different shapes and forms.
Right.
So I saw something you put in your notes about no marketing from Friday at noon until Monday at noon. What's the story behind that?
Well, nobody ever makes a business decision over the weekend, and particularly in Texas at football season, nobody. Well, think about it. Friday night, you got all your high school games. Saturday, you got all the colleges. And Sunday, you got all the professional games. So what happens is people start going off. They're not in the office anymore after Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
A lot of people leave early, and then
That's true.
they don't come back until noon on Monday. That's just the way life is. And decision makers, actually, I learned that.
Yeah, I do tell my team like sometimes.
Pardon, I'm sorry.
For your who?
Well, I was working for my father when I was doing computer consulting years ago, and he kind of taught me that on the marketing strategy.
Oh.
He was a CPA.
Huh. Well, I think I get the premise of what you're saying, but I still like think that if you bump into somebody, at a game or at a concert or something, like they still be like,
I'm not saying I don't market. What I'm saying is, if I'm going to post a blog, I wouldn't normally do that on a weekend. Or if I'm going to do something big on LinkedIn, I wouldn't do it on the weekend. But I'll just give you an example. The Dallas Bar Association, we had our 150th anniversary a year and a half ago. No, actually, no, it was just a year ago, I guess. Yeah, that's right. And the next day, I went to see my 9-year-old grandson pitch in a baseball game and then play another game. And during those games, I was on LinkedIn posting things about the party the night before. So that was on a Sunday afternoon. So I do things on LinkedIn, but I'm just saying I wouldn't arrange to try and have a meeting with somebody to do any marketing on the weekend.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. I agree. And there are a lot of science behind when to post certain things and when people are online, or when we figure out when to send our newsletter and things like that.
But let me say something else about the blog, that just to make things simple. It takes me 10 or 15 minutes to write a blog. I write very short ones that someone can read in less than a minute. That's just my approach. And so, for instance, every time I get on an airplane, From the time I sit down until we take off, I always write at least one blog.
Okay, I don't remember where I saw this, but it was either an article inside a news magazine on a plane, or it was, I don't know, whatever. But anyway, there was a lady who she wrote a note, and it was like when she's on the plane, she just like stream of conscious writes like journals or something, and like whatever the purpose was, but that's what she does. She doesn't get herself on devices or something. But like I like what you're saying. Like you make a point, because the flight could be 30-40 minutes if it's inside Texas. It could be a couple hours, and to knock it out while you're sitting there. I find that sometimes the being forced to sit down and sometimes not having internet, I can get so many things done right there.
I agree. I think everybody's got that part going. Yeah.
I sort of was joking with one of my friends, I should just take some flights to Tokyo to finish my book, a couple of round trips, and that way I'll be done. No. No, but luckily I already finished.
Anyway, yeah, that 20-hour flight will give you a lot of
time. Well, anyway, that's a lot of great nuggets and wisdom. Anything else on rainmaking for those who are either trying to find the right people to grow and develop in their firm, or how to be better rainmakers?
Well, let me say this to be critical. One of the things that I was very disappointed in when I worked both at Gardier and I didn't really think that most lawyers were very good at serving as mentors. And instead of giving feedback to help young associates learn how to better write, a lot of the more senior lawyers just mark everything up with a red or green or blue pen and just say this is terrible. And I'll just give you an example. One of my proteges that I was real proud of for many years had been the editor of the law review at one of the large law schools. And I always felt badly whenever I edited her work because she was such a wonderful writer, but I just felt compelled to do it. But there's a way to do that. You can be critical and say, this is terrible, it stinks, do it over again. Or you can say, I had some advice to help improve this, or think about these issues or something. And I think a lot of lawyers don't do a good job at being mentors. And I think that whole idea of being a mentor is really essential to help young lawyers. And in the new world where there's so many lawyers that are hybrid or not in the office much, I think that's a big problem for the opportunity to be the face-to-face and work together.
Well, you just have to be so purposeful about the mentorship as well. And if it doesn't, I completely agree with you. I did realize that a lot of my associates were from law clerks, and I sort of like mentored them. And when I didn't have law clerks during the pandemic, when I needed an attorney, my pipeline had dried up, and I was beating myself up because I hadn't invested in having more mentees. But just even if they don't work for you, just being a resource. And I think the adjunct professor opportunity can sort of expose you to more people, but even it doesn't have to be that environment. It could also be just people reaching out and, hey, let's have a coffee, let's have a call. It really can be done even just like this over Zoom or some other way. But you have to be consistent, and just the value of that mentorship is so. I have a couple of mentors in long term, and I just really appreciate that. And I think we should be more purposeful. I agree with you on that. Well, so we're coming to the close. I can't believe it already. And it's that time where I get to ask my guests a couple of fun questions, if the others weren't already fun enough. What is your favorite board game or game?
Well, let's put it like this. I am so devoted to being involved with the computer. I'm not really much of a game player. So I hate to say that I don't play many games. I mean, the best I can do is I've been running. I know this is going to sound really crazy when I tell you I started running when I was in college. I've been running for more than 50 years. And so that's about the best I can get to getting to a game, is running all the time.
Okay, we'll let you take that when we'll give that to you. So that's a lot. Wow. Some people have never ran a day of their lives. So yeah.
Well, it's a time for me to think. I find it as a thought provoking going being out by myself, and I also alternate and have two pairs of running shoes. Alternate every other day, and every 30 days I either change shoes or orthotics so that I don't have any knee or hip or back problems. So I've done
Ah,
that for years.
huh. Well, I don't walk that, or yeah, I mostly walk, but I haven't changed mine that much. But I do have a pair in my office, so that way if I need to switch out of the fancy shoes, I can go for a walk in my neighborhood. No, but that's great. Okay, well then, what do you think is your superpower?
I'm not sure that I would call it a superpower, but I think that my ability to translate complex information technology, computer lingo to plain English helps me in court. And that's why I think that I have had a good career because computer technology. Let me say this: people that are any good with a computer are incapable of having meaningful relations with other humans. They do a terrible job of communicating because they don't speak English. They speak technical jargon and stuff. I'm able to translate that technical jargon to plain English in the courtroom, and I think that's been really great for me.
So you're like an interpreter. Wow, that's that's
I think
uh,
so. Maybe giving all these speeches too. I mean, I've never counted, but I'm sure I've given over 5,000 speeches. So that probably is, I think that's good. I don't know, but that's what I've been doing. So
well, and that's also a great opportunity to network and remake. You're giving people information. People reciprocate. You built yourself as a thought leader and a authority on the topic. That's another aspect of what I do too in rain in my rainmaking hat, if you will. Um, that's actually reminds me of something. Do you go to a lot of legal tech conferences or more like tech conferences, or do you what do you go to those?
well, I go to technical conferences, but like this Thursday, and I speak at a lot of them too. So like the week before last, the North Texas Information System Security Association had a day-long cybersecurity conference. So I went to that. I also was on a panel there, but I spent the day there. And then this coming Thursday, I'm going to be at something called North Texas Tech Connect, and that's a chief information officer program, and I'll be there all day. So I hang out at those things, and then I also do that at the state bar where you and I met last summer. Usually go to the annual meeting every year, and I must admit I spoke at that about AI. So that was something that's been going on. So I think meeting and having personal relationships with other professionals is really important. So I do a lot of networking there.
Yeah, that's great. Actually, that reminds me, I'll need to invite you to something in Dallas afterward. I'll send you
Okay.
an invite in case you can stop
Okay.
by. It's a techie thing. You might be interested. Well, it's been great, Peter. I feel like I could learn a lot more nuggets of wisdom from either the tech side or rainmaking or just how to create your own, niche market, because that seems like what you've done. Um, is there any closing thoughts that you'd like to share with our
Well,
audience?
listen, Ruby, thank you for this opportunity. It's been really interesting to have the opportunity, and I certainly look forward to having more opportunities to meet with you from time to time. So thank you for inviting me to participate.
Yeah, well, my pleasure. And how can the audience find you? What's the best way to connect with you?
Okay, my website is Vogel IT, Information Technology Law.com. So it's pretty easy to find, I think, Vogel IT Law. So,
Okay, awesome. And we'll put that in the show notes for those
okay.
who need a little extra help on that too. We'll
All
we'll
right.
send it out to you. Well, thanks, Peter. It's been
Thank you.
great. Thanks everyone for listening and joining us. We've covered a lot of territory from rainmaking to tech to creating your own niche law firm, and just a lot of good marketing techniques and just learning more about Peter's superpower and the importance of running as well. I need to get back into that. Thanks to everyone for joining us. And if you want to stay in touch with us between episodes, you can join us at the Power Up Your Practice Facebook group. We've got the Power Up Your Practice book coming out any minute now, any day. Maybe it'll be out by the time you listen to this. And thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Feeling overwhelmed by admin tasks? You're not alone. Many immigration lawyers are in the same boat. That's where Staffy comes in. Over 90 law firm owners just like you have turned to Staffy for help with legal, administrative, marketing, and client-facing work. Now, Staffy's mission: to help lawyers find balance while growing their firm. With bilingual virtual staff and full HR support, they take the hassle out of a team management and focus on what matters most: your clients and your practice. I've personally benefited from Staffy's support with 7 virtual assistants of my own across various areas of 2 of my businesses, including my law firm. Now, schedule a free initial consultation with Staffy. That's stafi.cc and use the code RUBY. That's RUBY for $500 off. Thank you for tuning in to the Power Up Your Practice Law Practice Management podcast. I'm your host, Ruby Powers, and it's been a pleasure sharing this time with you. Join us next week for another episode where we'll continue to explore insightful strategies for success. Power Up Your Practice with us. See you next time.